Hello and a warm welcome. I'm delighted that you have joined me in this wonderful adventure to explore some of the most pressing issues that continue to face humanity, and to think about what we can do to achieve a more just and peaceful world. Our journey together will combine a critical analysis of problems like racism, nationalism, religious strife, gender inequality, and extremes of wealth and poverty with a scientific search for best practices and solutions. To get started, I would like to highlight a key theme in Peace for Our Planet, and that is the discussion on a new historical dialectic. Let me explain. In the common public discourse, meaning in what we hear in the media or even in the speeches given by scholars or politicians, progress toward peace is typically conceptualized as a linear process. For example, it is common for people to talk about human progress in terms like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or for them to use the analogy of a spiral that goes up and down but inches forward slowly, and so on. The problem with this linear view is that anytime there is a setback in the peace process, it can lead us to become hopeless and disempowered. One of the things that I wanted to achieve in my research was to determine whether there is any hope for the future of humanity. And if so, what are the empirical evidences that we can put forward to support such a view? Based on a macro-level approach to historical analysis, I found that during the last 2 centuries, human civilization has not been moving forward in a straight line, but rather into separate and parallel processes, one constructive and the other destructive. And also that the constructive process has never stopped, nor can it be turned back. Once we are able to gain a clear understanding of the dynamics of the interaction between these 2 parallel and simultaneous processes, we would likely feel less cynical about the possibility of creating a better world and be far more empowered to take positive action toward peace. Of course, if we focus on the immediate events that we see around us, much of what we will find is turmoil and destruction. It would seem that for thousands of years, humanity has been suffering and the turmoil continues. In fact, if we just spend a few hours watching the news or reading about the current state of international affairs, we are likely to become overwhelmed by the sheer volume of horrific news. There is no doubt that the processes of destruction and disintegration that we see around us are quite real. But there is also empirical evidence that another equally profound and real process is unfolding, one of constructive integration. And although the constructive process is less visible to the casual, everyday glance, it is a reality that is moving forward in the world, and we can see it quite clearly if we examine it from a historical perspective. So one of the things that we are going to attempt to do is to make visible and bring into focus the constructive processes of unification and integration that are moving forward in the world alongside the self-destruction that is going on in the realms of the old and the outworn. We will also attempt to gain an understanding of the new dialectic in which the constructive ideals challenge the destructive process, while the horrors of the destructive process energize and give new momentum to the constructive process. For a more in-depth discussion of this new historical dialectic, please refer to the introduction and part 1 of the textbook. Also, be sure to watch the 15-minute documentary called The Struggle for Justice, in which I have incorporated this perspective with regards to the history of race relations in the United States.